Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am KRX, and we are going to be doing a little exercise for Europa Universalis 4, and I think this isn't going to be quite for complete beginners. We do a lot of beginner stuff on the channel, and I'm talking for complete beginners, like very hand-holdy tutorials to kind of teach you the game. This is going to be for people that I think understand how to click the buttons, understand the core flow of the game. Maybe they've had a couple successful campaigns. But I was thinking about Europa Universalis 4 and what this game boils down to, and I think this game boils down to it's a decision-making game, right? But it's also a game about assessing your ecosystem. How do you know what to do in the situation where you're in? How do you plan for the future? How do you strategize for the future? How do you develop that strategy? What is the process for developing that strategy? So what we're going to do in here is we're going to be doing a little bit of a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on a random country. We're just going to grab a random country. Guys, if I pronounce the country name correctly, that is an accident, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm not going to be pronouncing things correctly. That's just sort of the standard, but we're going to click the random nation button and we're just going to go. And essentially, this is an exercise to kind of leveling up in the game. I'm not an expert at the game. This is going to be good for me to sort of get a little bit of practice and sort of just going into a country, checking out the economic situation, checking out the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, right? A SWOT analysis, like if you've ever taken like a business 101, right? Business administration, administration 101 class or something like that, right? So here we go. Let's click a nation and let's get into it. Boom. QQ. Let's go. Never played QQ before in my life. We're going in. And this is essentially going to probably be a 15 to 20 minute. This is everything we're going to do before we unpause. This is going to be discussing strategy. This is going to be discussing how we use our diplomats. How do we set up our internal economy? What do we look at? And how do we proceed? We are using the 1.3 patch, the Emperor patch. And this, I will admit that the Emperor thing is not working properly, but we do have the updated estate system, right? So we have the updated estate system, so we're going to want to discuss how to deal with this. In fact, we actually are starting with a little bit of low crownland, so we're getting a penalty from this, and we can affect things, sort of do some things there. But this is actually a really interesting nation to grab. So basically, and again, I don't think I'm necessarily going to be teaching the game, but I think this is going to be for intermediate players and players that are trying to get better at the game. And this is stuff that the point of what I think we're trying to do, and the reason why we're doing a random nation, is to prove that while, yes, QQ is a completely different ecosystem, completely different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to France, right? Totally different experience, totally asymmetrical journey, a completely different story that we're going to be telling as QQ. But the process is the same, right? What we're trying to teach, what we're trying to show is the process. Okay, so I'm just going to start going through the situation here. Boom. Looks like we are a Shia nation, but we have a lot of Sunni land right now. So our religious unity looks like it is in the toilet, potentially 32% religious unity. That's not great. What kind of government structure do we have, actually? We're a sultanate. We are a tribal federation. That gives us some interesting things. Does that give us a little bit more cavalry combat ratio? Cannot be comprised of more than 50. No. Okay, so we're not like a horde thing. We're one of the tribal federation government types, which I believe Najd also. Najd, I think, is the only country I've played with that in this entire region. I've played as Najd. Well, I actually did play as Ardabil as well. So QQ is quite a bit more powerful than Ardabil. What I will say is I do remember that a GM is sort of primed to explode due to a number of different instability issues as well. But man, we're kind of unstable as it is. We have a number of provincial unrests, including Iraqi separatists, just due to a high national unrest due to a low religious unity. We could look at our religious tab here to see, wow, we could start to convert some of this stuff, but it's not too expensive. It kind of depends on whether our economy is going to be able to afford this. We could, of course, increase our missionary strength potential by increasing, by adding state edicts to these different areas, right? So we could go into view edicts, so we can add missionary enforced religious unity edicts, and on any of these provinces that we want to convert. We could also look to maybe get like a missionary advisor, missionary strength guy here to sort of speed that along, because it does look like that is one of our major issues when it comes to stability. And it's kind of interesting that we've already picked a nation that like internal stability is going to be like a big problem here. What's our economy look like? -3 to have ducats per month. Okay, what's the army size? 1,800. So we're not up to our force limit, but we're losing tons and tons of money. So we're probably not going to be able to pay the troops, right? We're not going to be able to pay the troops, but even still, we're going to be losing money. We have forts. We have a number of different forts that we could potentially either decide to get rid of, or we could keep, or we could all kinds of things. So this is a you know what? We're a pretty powerful nation in this region. Just looking at the situation here. A jam, like I said, is not particularly strong. We're buffered from the Timurids. We're buffered from the Ottomans. We're buffered from the Mamluks. We could just click on these guys to see if they like us or not. Ottomans have rivaled us typically, even though we're a Sunni nation. Are we a Sunni? No, sorry, we're a Shia nation. But we have Sunni land. I bet you there's probably a way that we could just sort of like embrace Sunni. That might be sort of against sort of our core ambitions and stuff. But that would help us diplomatically, because it looks like the Mamluks do not like us. Mamluks do not like us. Tunis is a little far away. Yikes. This is a tricky country, right? Tricky country here. Where are our Shia brethren? Where are our Shia brethren? Isn't Balmanis Shia? Same religion, yeah. Balmanis has a lot of instability issues at the start of the game, but they are Shia. And they would not ally us because we're so far. We're too far away. This is kind of interesting. Who's even close to being an ally with us, right? We can go to diplomacy screen here. We can look for alliances. There's 11 people that are just willing to right away. Click on these nations. None of these are particularly impressive. A lot of the Georgian nations here. The interesting thing is these guys are willing to be an ally down here, it looks like, because they're threatened by us. I think this is also a nation that we're very likely to attack. I don't know, do we have any claims or anything like that? Oh, we do have a couple vassals. We have a couple vassals. They're Coptic. Or sorry, they're Sunni with some Coptic land. These guys are also Coptic. I don't know how that's going to help us here. Yikes. Yikes. Lithuania has rivaled us. Ottomans have rivaled us. Well, the thing is, actually, we could potentially use, if the Mamluks have rivaled the Ottomans, we could rival the Ottomans. I mean, we're not going to befriend the Ottomans. We could try to actually get the Mamluks to be friendly with us by rivaling the Ottomans, right? Lithuania, who are your enemies? Venice? I mean, Venice is not... None of these nations are going to want to befriend us. Although, to be fair... Yeah, because they didn't rival them directly. I think we're going to want to make sure that we're rivaling some people that we'll be able to beat up, right? Like a Jam and AQ. I think these guys would be great. I think the Ottomans make sense too. We're not going to be attacking the Great Horde anytime soon, right? They're too far away. Too many little nations in between. So yeah, I think a Jam, because I think they're going to be weak and vulnerable. I think AQ here is going to be weak and vulnerable. And then I think the Ottomans, just because I think it might help us with our diplomacy. I don't know. Now that we've done that, we should get a little bit enemy of enemy. And I'm just trying to think, is there even like a minuscule chance here of getting the alliance? Our army strength is weak, or navy strength is weak. Religious school relations, not good. Not good there. Timurids. Not good. Too many diplomatic relations. I don't know. Let's butter up with the Mamluks. This seems like kind of a bad draw here in a way, to be honest. The Timurids do have a lot of sort of vassals and things, and I think a lot of these guys start off relatively disloyal. So it might be worth sort of like trying to get sort of like an alliance with Transoxiana potentially. So maybe we do that with another diplomat. We could start fabricating on a nation to conquer. And I think potentially that could be a Jam, or that could be a Q, depending on who in these guys are more likely to maybe get an alliance. It looks like AQ could end up allying the Ottomans, or they could end up allying the Mamluks. Because I think a Jam, for the most part, everybody hates them. A lot of these are vassals of the Timurids, so they're not going to be able to like directly ally. Yeah, I think for the most part we could build up against a Jam. But before I do that, I want to take a quick look and see, do we have any special missions here? No, just generic missions. Generic missions, it's kind of a bummer, actually. You would have thought that maybe we would have got a little bit of flavor with the Cradle of Civilization pack, but I guess it just didn't touch QQ at all, huh? So let's get a spy network going on a jam. There's a bunch of smaller nations I think we could beat up too, but a jam is pretty weak at the start of the game and has a certain amount of unrest and instability, so I'm not that worried about that. Low Crownland kind of makes me want to seize that back immediately. So let's do that. That is going to lower sort of the loyalty with all of these guys, but we can gain a little bit by summoning the diet and doing an agenda here. So we can make the Timurids happy, and that would make the Emirs happy. Let's get opinion to 50. It's totally possible. It's totally possible. They haven't rivaled us, right? Who did they rival? Only the Mamluks? And then they have an enemy Uzbek. I wonder why they haven't rivaled Uzbek, or they haven't rivaled us. Maybe we can't. Maybe they're too big and powerful. Increasing trade power by that much seems like it'd be kind of tricky. What region is this talking about? 30% or more trade power in the Persian Gulf. %. I don't know how we'd be able to do that, like, sort of quickly. I mean, we're going to be beating up a jam, so this is a possibility. We'd get a level 1 trader with 50% reduced cost. That'd be very tricky. I don't know what would happen if we conquer this area, if that would sort of help us in boosting that or not. I don't know how we actually just increase that by 11% without being able to use ships and stuff. And then we could butter up these other guys here and to make them happy. Yeah, this is kind of tricky, honestly. I don't really like a lot of these objectives. You know what the heck? We're going to be attacking a jam here. Maybe that will get us a certain amount of additional power in this node. Do we collect here in Persia right now? We do collect here. We do collect here. Speaking of our merchants, it looks like we're pushing here to Persia. We're collecting in Persia. Our other merchant is over here. And it says that we're set to collect here. Shouldn't we be transferring? I think we should be transferring. Right, there's only 3, it's creating a little bit of a merchant chain. That should help us a little bit, so let's set that to transfer. So I think we were looking at our forts, right? Because we got a bad economic situation. You know what? I'm getting rid of this fort. It's in grassland. It's not going to help us. Highlands Fort there, good. Mountain Fort up here, fantastic. Mountain Fort on our capital, that is beautiful. Mountain Fort over here, I like those, but again, I don't want to pay for the ones that are just like, don't even give us a defensive advantage. You know what I mean? What does that do for us? The AR kind of scoots through those forts, no problem. We're helping our economy a little bit, right? By removing some of those forts. We could just sort of drop fort maintenance altogether, and that will actually get us a little bit of the positive. So we're making money now, and that money could be used to convert some of these provinces, but man, that is going to take a minute. That's going to take a minute. What we could do is we could look up Khoi here. And go to this entire region and set religious unity here, which is going to increase the cost of the state maintenance. So that will reduce our income here, which is yikes again. But that means that we'll be able to technically get this done sooner. We do have a little bit, because we're moving towards mysticism, it seems like we have extra religious missionary strength, which is nice. I'm kind of tempted to actually get ourselves a little bit of stability if we could afford it, but we cannot. Our religious unity is causing this to be way more expensive. Way more expensive. We can't afford any advisors unless we really decided not to pay the army. Then we could. We can't really afford to build more troops. We're going to want to roll a general or two. How much military tradition do we start with? 15? Okay. Let's go through and see if we can get anything from these estates. We don't want to give them Crownland, right? We're trying to we're trying to make sure we stay above the 30%. We started with that little bit of a penalty. I don't know why. I think you're supposed to start at 30%. I don't know why we started at 29.993. That's kind of annoying. I kind of hope they fix that where you always start with at least 30%. Whoops, sorry guys, didn't mean to bump that with my elbow there. Being a little bit of a klutz here. Okay, so governing capacity, we don't need that right now. What is our actual governing capacity at the start? Yeah, we have plenty. That's something we could try to work our way up to. We don't have the crown land to give away for any of this stuff. Administrative cost advisor, this is very good. It increases the cost of stability modifier, which is not great because we're thinking about doing that soon. Monthly piety plus 0.1. That's pretty decent as well. However, that's going to move us away from mysticism, and it seems like we start the game with sort of moving towards mysticism. So I think we want to play to mysticism right now, and we'll work on legalism later on in the game. This just sort of gives them more loyalty and influence. Of course, if we can get their influence up, like they have, like, I mean, there's just nothing going on here at all. So what I'm not quite understanding is, oh, that's right, the Dhimmi only affects heathens. Not heretics, heathens. Yeah, these guys have no influence right now in the country. It's insane. Okay, this is interesting. This reduces the tolerance of heretics and heathens, but it gives us more missionary strength, intolerance of the true faith. This would create a certain amount of unrest without question, right? Because immediately, like, we just get massive tons of additional unrest in these provinces that are already kind of upset with us. We're already getting unrest in these regions, which we could bash out most of this. Most of this could get bashed out with using our 18,000 troops to sort of suppress the rebels. So we could try to like group these guys up to do that. Looks like there's plenty of a supply limit in that region to group up and do that. We have some buttons here. See, this reduces national unrest by 1, which is good, but it moves us towards legalism. 2 missionary strength versus heretics. Beautiful. Beautiful. That means that these numbers are going to go way down. We're going to be able to convert this stuff like a monster. And maybe we just play into that, right? Maybe we just play into that and we just get this stuff done swiftly. Of armies when fighting heretics or heathens. We are going to be fighting a lot of heretics and heathens. We are, in fact, a Shia nation in a world of Sunni right now. So that could make a lot of sense there. But it doesn't give us any like influence, or it doesn't give us anything with them really right now. Yeah, there's nothing here that I'm absolutely loving. Because even this right here, we can't afford advisors, so I'm not feeling that right now. What can we get from the emirs? If we had more army tradition, that's a good one to reduce the cost of generals. National tax modifier, national manpower modifier. That's a really fun one. But I don't know if we kind of need taxation right now. We don't want to lose taxation. Manpower is fine. We're not going to be attacking anybody that's really going to be able to do. We're the dominant military force in the area. If we can finance the army at least. Again, the right of counsel. The funny thing is, this is actually probably one of the better things that we could hit for these guys, just to kind of make them happy. 2 diplomatic relations. Wow. Minus liberty desired subject. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. But they don't have very much liberty desire, and I think for the most part we still have 2 slots, and no one really wants to be our friend. So I don't think we're going to need more than that at the moment. We are doing the tribal thing. I forgot. We get this by winning battles and humiliating rivals. Tribal federation can increase the tribal allegiance, whereas losing battles and being humiliated will decrease it. That makes sense. It also just changes sort of like, it just gets reduced by year the more development that we have. We can spend a little bit of this to get generals for free. And we can get cavalry combat ability, and we can also sort of just train up generals for free. Train up cavalry for free. So that's kind of cool, but we're not going to get any of that if we don't go to war with these guys. I'm tempted to actually just slot these in the right of counsel to give them just more influence and legitimacy, just sort of right off the bat. This just makes them happy. We don't really need to make these guys happy. They're already happy. Every owned province not of the Muslim faith. Yeah, this is not what we want, because the Sunnis are Muslim. they're just not. This is something you'd use if you were the Ottomans, right? To reduce the to get rid of the Orthodox negatives there. This is pretty decent. This gives it an extra leader without upkeep, but I think right now it's like we're fine. 2 is going to be plenty. We don't even need admirals or anything like that. Yeah, the Dhimmi have a lot of control here, but realistically, bunch of heathens. We don't have any heathen. Am I crazy? We don't have any heathens in our country. We don't have any heathens around us at all. I mean, we have the Coptics nations. There's a few of them. There's some Orthodox up here, but that's not within our country at the moment, is it? Okay, there's a little bit within our country. Holy cow. These right here are like ready to go boom already. Some of these things are going to build up pretty quickly. Saying 30 years for this, not a big deal. We could stomp that out. 7 years for that. It's going to be 10,000 troops, Iraqi separatists. 30 years for that, not a big deal. This could be 4 years, that's 8,000 troops. So we could definitely handle all these rebellions. It's not as dire as it looks. But I don't think we need anything from the Dhimmi that I can see. This isn't going to change anything. 2 Daughters of the Heathens isn't even going to change the situation with those Coptics at all. We don't have any Navy stuff. Yearly prestige, we can just gain some prestige. Yearly prestige, we lose taxation. I don't like that much because we kind of need our taxation right now. It's probably our main source of income, actually. It is by far. Twice as much production, 3 or 4 times as much as trade. You know what? It's not a button that I think is a common. It's not a long-term strategy. It's a short-term strategy. But I think we're going to go here. We're going to hit these ones that just give us 10, 10, 10. 10, 10, 10. And we're just basically going to try to increase the influence of these guys and increase their loyalty just so that the benefits that they give us are better. Like right now, we're getting a little bit of national tax modifier. Man, I really would like to give these guys significantly more influence, but something like this would be okay. Something like this would be good as well. That would give them up to 30 influence. And then we could sort of just start plugging in the influence here. But I don't know. I think we're going to have to use events to try to transfer influence from the Dhimmi. I don't know how we weaken the Dhimmi, to be honest. Unless we just sort of steal land and... Yeah, I'm not sure actually how we're going to weaken the Dhimmi. This button right here moves us towards legalism. Right now, we're benefiting from we're benefiting from the fact that we have slid towards the mysticism, right? Getting extra missionary strength. Although our missionary strength just went boom, right? It just went boom. So we have like 4% here. If we lose just a little fraction of the piety there, that's going to be okay. So the national unrest should actually sort of temper some of these ones. Like this is saying it's going to take like 166 years to rebel, right? Some of these won't rebel now. The Iraqi separatists, we could easily stomp that out with the armies. We are still going to get the Coptics to rise up here, but that's going to be fine. They're not actually going to rise up as Coptics. Yeah, we've stabilized. Actually, there you go. We've stabilized national unrest. If we actually could afford like a national unrest guy, that would totally nullify it. We have a trade dude here, but we're not making that much money in trade. Taxation guy might almost kind of pay for himself. So we could kind of lower our army maintenance a little bit. It kind of just depends on how quickly we think we want to go to war with a jam. If we look up a jam situation here, we can look at our rivals. A jam has 12,000 troops. We could build up to 25,000. I don't think we'd be able to afford that. Jam also has a lot of those instability issues that we have as well. So going to war, we could cause them to sort of have issues there. AQ is actually a little bit weaker than a jam. With only 8,000 total troops, so it just kind of depends at this point. We're probably going to be attacking into here, attacking into here. We do have the vassals that will help out, right? Because they are loyal. These vassals are loyal. However, I think there's a situation where we come in here and we look at these vassals and we force their religion. The thing is, if we did that, they would be very disloyal, right? They would be very disloyal, but it's kind of a bother to me right here that they are, that they're, one's Coptic and one's Sunni, so they're not really helping us much, you know. But I think plus our vassals, plus potentially getting good relations with Transoxiana and Mamluks is good. we've basically taken care of the unrest situation here. Where's that 6%? Oh, that's because we're converting, right? It's because we're actively actually converting this province. That won't take very long. This is going to go away. This is going to be converted before that becomes an issue. I think for the most part, we're making a small amount of money. That's while paying for our army. That's while paying for our army. I think for the most part, we'd lower this down, but I don't think we actually invest in admirals here. We have a decent leader at 3, 4, 5. That's really, really good. We could just focus military just to try to race up to Miltech 4, which could be good. That could be a big advantage in the first war, so we could focus on military, or we could focus on admin. I think both are completely valid. Our air is not very good. I think realistically, there's a good case to just get rid of this guy. He'd be in a huge prestige hole. We might wait to do this until we sort of get into a good war and we start winning a war, so that we can kind of recover that prestige a little bit. That's kind of hard to say, actually. Do we just get rid of this guy right away? Maybe we do. Or we could make it, well, he's not old enough to become a general. We definitely need to roll our own general. Holy cow, we just got a 2-6. That is insane. That is insane. That is literally like that is war-winning material right there. We can't lose the war. Let's get rid of this guy. You know what? I'm just feeling gutsy. That means that our prestige will start trending upwards. It's kind of a bummer that we're starting the game out that way, but that is a terrible error. Let's get rid of that guy. A combination of getting an early Miltech 4 combined with the fact that we just rolled a general here that is 38 years old, that is a 2-6. I don't know how that just happened, except for the fact that we do get one land leader shock because of our Sultan thing. What is our actual tradition of? And we get one more because of our traditions. Holy cow, that's insane. So we're adding 2 shock every time we roll a general. It's just apparently amazing every time. When we finish this, we'll be able to get a land leader fire, a huge amount of additional manpower there, core creation cost reduction, war score cost reduction, tolerance of heretics. That's pretty good because we're going to be conquering a lot of heretic land. Extra maneuver. We're just going to have crazy generals. Crazy generals. More national unrest modifiers and stuff, all kinds of good stuff. Cavalry combat modifier 20%. This is great. A little bit of a shaky start, but this is really, really good. I don't think we're going to buy more troops, though. I think we're going to make do with the 8,000. And guys, that, I believe, is the SWOT analysis for QQ. Never played QQ before in my life, but we are going to try to potentially get an alliance with Mamluks by rivaling the Ottomans. We're going to potentially try to get an alliance with Transoxiana and maybe beat up the Timurids, or we could just sort of actually butter up the Timurids and see if they'll like us. Other than that, I don't think we need to get any alliances with these weaklings in here. We're planning on attacking a gem soon. There's a lot of mountain territory here, but I trust that we'll be able to get some good battles there. These guys are a lot weaker than they appear. They're sort of destined to explode. We have some vassals here that we'll be able to use in that war, even if we don't have good allies to help us. And I think for the most part, that's the plan. It's beat up on AQ, beat up on a jam. I don't think we're as weak as we look, but we are a little bit unstable. So it's just sort of managing that. I do think we want to convert things right away and just sort of using the different modifiers to be able to convert this stuff in a timely manner. It doesn't cost us too much to do that, which is also a nice little benefit. And there you go, guys. That is QQ. It looks like we have a number of strengths and such. So that could be an interesting run right there. But basically, I just wanted to kind of like load up a nation and see what the situation is. And we're ready to unpause. We're ready to fly, right? And at this point, we unpause, we fly, we get that claim on a jam, and we just go, go, go. We attack a jam, and we get right into it. And that's probably the plan. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.